Let's talk about something a lot of us dream about, packing it all in and moving to the beautiful Japanese countryside. It's a fantastic vision, right? But if that dream involves buying a house with a bit of land, well, there's a massive hidden rule that trips almost everyone up.
You know the feeling, right? You're scrolling online and you see these gorgeous old traditional houses, these kominka, just sitting there, surrounded by all this amazing nature, and you can't help but picture yourself living there.
And then, bam, you find it, the absolute perfect spot. A beautiful old house with tons of character. And hey, look at that. It comes with a little field right next to it. Maybe a small rice paddy? It looks like the whole package, the entire dream just waiting for you. But this is where the dream hits a wall.
Okay, so let's get right into it. The house itself? That part's actually pretty simple. It's just a real estate deal. Pretty much anyone, including foreigners, can buy the building. But the farmland? Whoa, hold on. That is a whole different ballgame, governed by a completely separate and much stricter set of rules.
And that brings us to the first major point. This is where that romantic vision of country life slams right into the cold, hard reality of Japanese law.
Everything, and I mean everything, revolves around this one piece of legislation, the No-Chiho, also known as the Agricultural Land Act. And its purpose is incredibly clear, to make sure that Japan's farmland is actually used for farming, for growing food, and not just bought up by investors to sit empty or be flipped for a profit.
This quote right here sums up the entire philosophy. The law just treats farmland differently. It's not seen as just another asset you can buy and sell. It's considered vital infrastructure for the nation. And the takeaway is super simple. If you're not actually going to farm it, you basically can't own it.
So, the obvious next question is, if it's not for just anybody, then who can get their hands on it? Who actually gets the green light to buy farmland in Japan?
Well, for an individual, you've got to pass a pretty tough test from the local agricultural committee. This isn't for weekend gardeners. First, you have to prove you will farm 100% of the land you buy. Second, you or someone in your immediate family has to commit to working that farm for about 150 days a year. Third, there's often a minimum size you have to acquire. And finally, you have to submit a super detailed and convincing farming plan that shows you're serious and know what you're doing.
So what if you're not a Japanese citizen? Well, guess what? The farming rules are exactly the same. You have to meet that exact same tough checklist. You do have some extra paperwork, like reporting your nationality and visa status. And here's a really critical update. Starting in April 2025, it's going to be basically impossible for anyone on a tourist visa or other short-term stay to buy farmland. You really need to have long-term residency and a rock-solid plan.
And if you're still not convinced how high the bar is, just look at this number, 0.004%. That is the tiny fraction of Japan's farmland held by foreign entities. It's not zero, so it's not impossible, but wow, that really shows you just how rare it is. Okay, so maybe you're thinking, fine, I'll just set up a company to buy the land. Well, not so fast. You can't use just any old company. You have to create a very specific type of legal entity. It's a real mouthful, a Nochi Shoyu Tekeku Hojin, basically a farmland holding eligible corporation.
And the rules to become one of these, you guessed it, they are incredibly strict. The company's main line of business has to be agriculture, period. Over half its income must come from farming. The majority of the people on its board must be full-time farmers themselves, and farmers have to hold the majority of the voting rights. This whole system is designed to stop, say, a big hotel chain from just creating a fake company to gobble up land.
So, since owning is clearly a massive challenge, let's talk about the two main ways people get access to farmland: the tough road of buying and a much more common alternative.
Here's the deal for most newcomers. Buying means climbing that huge mountain of rules we just talked about. But renting or leasing the land, that is a totally different story. It is way more common, the process is simpler, and there are even these local organizations called farmland banks that exist specifically to connect people who want to farm with landowners who can't anymore. Honestly, for most people, this is the realistic place to start.
But okay, let's say you're determined. You think you meet the criteria, you're ready for the challenge, and you want to buy. How do you actually do it? What's the process? Well, here is your step-by-step playbook.
It's definitely a journey, and step one isn't making an offer, it's having a consultation with the local agricultural committee. You start by talking to them, then you prepare all your paperwork, including that super important farming plan. Once you submit everything, they'll come out for an on-site visit and hold a hearing. Only after all that does the committee make its final call. If you get the okay, then and only then can you go register the property.
So now that we know all the rules, let's get to the interesting part. How do people work with these rules to build a successful business, especially when they buy one of those abandoned Akia houses that happens to come with a field?
This table breaks down the options really well. The smartest and safest approach is to integrate. You run the house as an inn or guest house, and you use the farm to grow food for your guests and create cool farm-to-table experiences. Also very safe is a partnership. You run the house, but you lease the land to a local professional farmer. Then you get into the risky gray area, like just ignoring the land or planting a few vegetables for show. That can get you into big trouble. And finally, there's the totally illegal stuff, like paving over the field to make a parking lot. Don't even think about it. That's a surefire way to get hit with fines and legal action.
Finally, to really get why all this is the way it is, you have to look past the rules themselves and understand the deep philosophy behind them. Why is Japan so incredibly protective of its farmland?
This one quote is the key to everything. Farmland in Japan is not viewed as a financial asset, like a stock or a city condo that you just buy and sell. It's seen as production infrastructure. It's a fundamental resource for the country's food security. And when you think about it that way, all the rules suddenly start to make sense. The goal isn't to stop people from owning land, it's to protect the nation's ability to produce food.
So if you're really dreaming of that life in rural Japan, the entire system is pushing you to ask a totally different question. The important question isn't, how can I own this piece of land? It's, what will I do to bring this land to life? And your answer to that question is what will ultimately decide whether the dream can ever become a reality.